Just 5 minutes alone. And he changed completely. It was just 5 minutes. That's all it took for everything to change. No one expected it, not his friends, not his family, not even him. One moment, he was just like any other young man, caught up in the noise of everyday life, constantly surrounded by people, distractions, and endless scrolling. And then, in an unexpected twist, he found himself completely alone. 5 quiet minutes. No phone. No one calling his name. No background noise. Just silence. At first, it felt strange. Uncomfortable, even. But as the seconds ticked by, something within him began to shift. What started as a moment of stillness turned into a deep conversation with himself, one he didn't know he needed. 100 thoughts rushed in. Memories, regrets, dreams long forgotten. It was like time paused, and for the first time in a long while, he actually saw himself, really saw himself. This isn't just a story about silence. It's about transformation. It's about what happens when life forces you to stop running, even for just a few minutes. It's about a decision that shaped the rest of his journey, all sparked by a moment most of us usually avoid, being alone. But what exactly happened in those 5 minutes? What did he see? What did he realize, and why did it change him so deeply? The answers lie ahead. This is not just his story. It's a reflection of something many of us might be going through without even knowing it. Because sometimes, the biggest change doesn't come from years of effort. It comes from just 5 minutes alone. And in his case, those 5 minutes turned his whole world upside down. Before those 5 minutes changed everything, he was just drifting. His name is Arjun, 24, smart, funny, but always in a rush. Every day looked the same. Wake up late, scroll through his phone, rush to work, come back exhausted, binge-watch something mindlessly, and sleep. Somewhere in all that noise, he stopped feeling alive. But he never admitted it. To the world, Arjun seemed fine. He laughed at the right jokes, showed up at the right places, and kept the conversations light. But inside, something was off. He often felt this strange emptiness, like something was missing, but he didn't know what. He thought maybe it was just stress or maybe boredom. He tried to fill that gap with more noise, social media, video games, endless reels, late-night calls. Anything to avoid being alone with his thoughts. He told himself he didn't have time to think deeply or feel anything too real. But deep down, he knew he was avoiding something. Something important. Then came that one day. Nothing unusual, just a regular Sunday. His friends canceled last minute, his phone battery died, and there was no power at home for a while. For the first time in months, everything stopped. No calls, no noise, no distractions. Just him and silence. At first he panicked a little. He didn't know what to do with himself. He even reached for his dead phone out of habit, like some kind of reflex. But slowly, as the minutes passed, a strange calm settled in. He sat by the window, just watching the world move outside. No filters, no screen between him and reality. And that's when it started. His thoughts, buried deep under months of distractions, started to surface. He remembered things he hadn't thought about in years, his childhood dreams, his first heartbreak, the last time he felt truly proud of himself. And with those memories came questions. Why did he stop painting? Why hadn't he spoken to his father in months? Why was he always running? There was no one else in the room. No one to impress. No one to judge. Just him, facing himself. And the more he sat with those thoughts, the more uncomfortable it got. But also, the more real it felt. He didn't know it yet, but something had already begun to shift inside him. What came next would not just challenge him, it would break him open. And from that silence, something unexpected would rise. As Arjun sat there, still staring out of the window, something unexpected happened. A memory flashed, sharp and sudden. It was his mother's voice, calling him from the kitchen, asking him to sit with her for just 5 minutes after dinner. He had brushed her off like always. Later, Ma, he used to say, too busy with his headphones on, texting someone or playing a game. But later never came. She passed away last year after a sudden illness. He had never fully processed it. Just kept moving, kept distracting himself. That memory hit him like a punch to the chest. For the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to feel it. The guilt, the sadness, the regret. He thought those feelings were buried. But in that quiet room, there was nowhere left to hide. The walls he'd built around himself were thin, and now they were starting to crack. Somewhere in the middle of that silence, another story began to unfold. A subplot almost. His younger sister, Mira, had been trying to reach him emotionally for months. She lived in the same house, but their conversations rarely went beyond, "Did you eat?" or "What time are you coming home?" She had grown tired of trying. Arjun always had excuses. Work, tiredness, or just not now. But what he didn't know was that Mira was going through something too. She had been silently battling anxiety, feeling alone, even in a house full of people. She needed her brother, but he was lost in his own world. And now, in those 5 minutes of silence, that truth started echoing in his head as well. How much had he missed while he was too busy avoiding his own pain? Even his best friend, Kabir, had noticed Arjun's distance. A few months ago, they had a falling out, something small, but it turned into silence. They hadn't spoken since. Arjun told himself Kabir would call if he cared. But maybe it wasn't about who called first. Maybe it was about who cared enough to try, even when it felt uncomfortable. All these thoughts rushed in. Faces, voices, words left unsaid. His heart felt heavier by the minute. And just when he thought he couldn't take it anymore, there was a knock at the door. But it wasn't who he expected. The knock at the door startled Arjun. His heart jumped a little. He wasn't expecting anyone, especially not today. For a second, he just sat there, frozen. Then slowly he stood up and walked over. When he opened the door, he didn't find Kabir or Mira. It was someone he hadn't seen in years, Mrs. Sun, their old neighbor from 2 floors down. She looked thinner, older, but her eyes were still sharp. She smiled softly and said, "I was just passing by. Thought I'd say hello. You've been quiet lately." Arjun managed a faint smile. He invited her in, and she sat at the edge of the couch, like she didn't plan to stay long. But what she said next struck a chord. "I don't know if you remember," she began, "but your mother used to sit right here and talk to me for hours. She always worried you were slipping away. She once told me, 'I wish he'd just sit with himself, really sit. He's carrying more than he admits.'" Arjun didn't know how to respond. That sentence alone felt like someone had been reading the thoughts he was just having. His mother knew. She always knew. After she left, he sat in silence again. But now the air felt heavier. Those 5 minutes he had alone earlier had already opened something inside him, and now this visit only pushed it further. He couldn't sit still. He began walking around the room, thinking. Everything around him suddenly felt unfamiliar, like he was standing inside a life he didn't fully recognize anymore. That night, he found Mira's diary by accident. It had slipped between the sofa cushions. Out of habit, he opened it, not meaning to invade her privacy, just curious. What he read stopped him cold. Pages filled with her thoughts, her fears, her loneliness. She had been writing about how she felt invisible in her own house. How she missed the version of her brother who used to laugh with her, tease her, protect her. She even mentioned those exact words. "I just wish he'd sit with himself and see what he's become." Now both his mother and sister had said it in their own way. It wasn't just a coincidence anymore. He sat on the floor, diary in his hands, trying to hold back tears. A storm was building inside him. Guilt, regret, confusion, but also something else, a strange, deep clarity. He realized how far he had drifted from the people who mattered, how much he had ignored, not out of cruelty, but fear. Fear of feeling too much. Fear of facing himself. And just when he thought the emotional weight couldn't get heavier, his phone finally buzzed back to life. A message flashed across the screen. It was from Kabir. "We need to talk. It's serious. Call me when you can." Arjun stared at the message. His hands trembled. So many pieces of his life were suddenly demanding his attention, all at once. It felt like something big was about to happen. He stood up, not knowing what he was about to face. But deep down, he knew everything was about to change. Arjun stared at Kabir's message, his mind racing. We need to talk. It's serious. The words echoed in his head. He picked up the phone, hesitated, then put it down again. What could it be now? They hadn't spoken in months. Too much had been left unsaid. But something in the tone of that message didn't feel casual. He took a deep breath and finally tapped the call button. It rang twice before Kabir picked up. There was no hello, just silence for a second. Then Kabir spoke, his voice low and tight. Bro, I didn't know who else to call. I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it.
Arjun felt his throat go dry.
What is it?
Kabir paused.
It's about Mira. Arjun's heart skipped a beat. What about her? She called me a few weeks ago, Kabir said. She was crying. Said she felt alone. Said you don't talk to her anymore. She sounded really broken, Arjun. She asked if she could come stay with me for a few days just to breathe. Arjun stood frozen, his back to the window, phone pressed tightly to his ear. Why didn't you tell me? I tried, Kabir said, his voice cracking. But we hadn't spoken in so long. I didn't know if you even cared anymore. And then, she never showed up. Arjun's grip tightened. What do you mean? She told me she'd come that night. But then she didn't. She stopped answering my calls. I thought maybe you convinced her to stay. But now, hearing all this,
I don't know, man.
Something feels wrong. Arjun felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. His mind rushed back to the diary, to the things she had written, things he had ignored. She had been screaming silently for help, and he hadn't noticed. I thought she was home, he whispered. I mean, she's been quiet, but I just thought she needed space. Kabir was quiet on the other end. You need to check on her. Right now. Without another word, Arjun rushed toward her room. He knocked once, twice, but no answer. The door was slightly open. He pushed it gently and stepped in. The room was cold, dim, her bed untouched. Her bag was gone. Her favorite hoodie, the one she wore even in summer, missing from the chair. His heart dropped. Then he noticed something else, a note on the desk. Folded neatly, his name written in her handwriting. He reached for it, hands trembling, but didn't open it. Not yet. Not without knowing where she was. A sense of panic set in. She had left, and he had no idea when or where. She hadn't said a word. The silence that had once brought him peace now felt like a storm about to burst. Everything was falling apart. And this time he might be too late. Arjun grabbed the note, but didn't open it. His hands were shaking too much. His mind raced with questions, fears, and guilt. He called Mira's number, straight to voicemail. He called again. Nothing. Every second felt like an hour. Then, finally, he opened the note. Bye, I'm not running away. I just need to breathe. You're always so far, even when you're near. I miss you. I miss us. I didn't want to leave without saying something, but I also didn't want to hear you say nothing back.
Please don't look for me.
I'll be safe. I just need to find myself again. Like you did. Even if you don't know it yet. Tears welled up in Arjun's eyes. His heart ached. She had seen it, seen his change, seen his silence, and it had made her feel invisible. The very thing he was trying to avoid had now become the reason he might lose her. But then, in a split-second decision, he remembered something. Their shared photo location. A small park on the edge of town where their parents used to take them as kids. Mira always went there when she was upset. He ran out of the house without even locking the door. As he reached the park, his breath short, he scanned the area. And there she was, sitting on their old bench, hoodie wrapped tightly around her, eyes staring blankly ahead. Relief flooded through him. He walked slowly, carefully, and sat beside her. Neither of them spoke at first. Just silence. Then he whispered, I read your note. I'm sorry. She didn't look at him, but her voice cracked. You disappeared long before I did. He nodded. I know, but I'm here now. If you'll let me be. A long pause followed. And then, just as he thought she wouldn't respond, she leaned into him and said, just don't leave again. They sat like that in the quiet, not the kind that pushes people apart, but the kind that finally lets them be heard. But as they stood up to leave, Mira handed him her phone. There's something you should see. It was a video, one recorded months ago, of their mother speaking directly to the camera. If you're watching this, something inside you is finally waking up. Don't run from it. Face it. Both of you. Arjun stared at the screen, stunned. Their mother had known all along, and she was still guiding them even now. Arjun stood there, phone still in his hand, the video playing softly. His mother's voice, warm, steady, knowing, felt like a bridge between past and present. Mira stood beside him, quiet but no longer distant. For the first time in a long while, they weren't just in the same place, they were together. That night, they didn't go straight home. Instead, they walked through the park, remembering the little things. The sound of the swing chains, the old tree they once carved their names into, the way their mother would hum while watching them play. And slowly, without forcing it, they began to talk. About everything.
The pain.
The silence. The guilt. The things they never said out loud. And in doing so, something inside both of them began to heal. Back home, Arjun found himself doing something he hadn't done in years. He opened his sketchbook. The pages were dusty, the pencil tucked deep in a drawer. But once he began drawing, the lines came easily. He didn't need perfection. He just needed truth. Mira, from the other room, played an old song their mother used to love. The house, once filled with silence that felt heavy, now held a different kind of quiet, peaceful, honest, alive. Days passed, and slowly, Arjun started reconnecting. He called Kabir, not just to apologize but to listen. They met over coffee and picked up the pieces of a friendship they'd both missed. Even the small things changed. Morning walks, unplugged evenings, meals shared without screens in between. What started as just 5 minutes alone had led to a journey inward and outward. Arjun didn't become a new person overnight, but he became someone real, someone present. In the end, it wasn't just about those 5 quiet minutes. It was about what silence reveals when you stop running, about the people we take for granted, the words we hold back, and the healing we avoid. Sometimes, life doesn't ask for a big change. Just a pause. Just 5 minutes. Because in that stillness, we finally hear what matters most. And sometimes, that's enough to change everything.